I did it. I gave the Loud House movie a chance. Not because I was genuinely interested in the movie whatsoever, because believe it or not, I do have a somewhat functioning social life outside of ranting about children's shows for an extensive amount of time, but primarily because I got a lot of requests to review this specific movie after I made my video on the decline of the Loud House. And that video did well, so let's just see how this goes. The Loud House movie is not very good. Controversial statements only on this channel. That's the end of the video. Go away. I banged your mother. Scattershot attempts at being funny aside, I can say that this movie sort of ticked off every expectation I could have had for it. Obviously not in a good way, but I was surprised by how not surprised I was by them choosing to do everything in the most cookie-cutter Loud House way. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is a movie for kids. It's a show for kids, I understand that. But there's a reason why there was a large adult fan base for the show in the first place, aside from half of them being potential sex offenders, and at the end of the day, it is still a movie written by adults. And if they seriously think a film of this quality is fine to shovel out to kids with practically zero regards for their intelligence, I'd say it's fair game. And it's also free publicity from me anyway. If people on this website can rant about a show that's actually intended for preschoolers, I don't see how this is much different. You'd have to be an idiot not to take this opportunity, trust me. Anyway, the Loud House movie is a painfully predictable, unfunny, poorly animated trash heap that sits at the bottom of the decline of what was once a very promising return to form for its rather troubled network. Oh, and here's garbage. Garbage! Damn it! Have you ever wanted to give me money? I shall rephrase accordingly. Have you wondered how much I earn from making garbage content?
Nothing. Literally nothing.
Well, I now have an official Patreon if you ever wanted to donate. If you want weekly-ish progress updates, be able to see my videos early, or simply want to send me some cash to support my endeavors, then feel free to donate if you so desire. I am not holding you at gunpoint here, it's completely optional. Even if I do have a slowly dying PC, books to buy for literature A-levels, nah, I'm not desperate. Click the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Please. Please do it, you cunts. I need the money.
Money.
We open with an admittedly sweet montage showing how the Loud's parents Lynn and Rita first met, as well as showing the Louds growing up over time to the present day. It's a rather effective opening despite being rather cliche, and I absolutely dig the song they made for this. It's a touching way to welcome people into the movie and a good way to welcome fans of the show. Unfortunately, the movie begins after that. We cut to the present day with Lincoln teaching Lily how to survive in a big family now that she's getting older. Insert overused patent pending joke.
Patent pending.
I'm guessing they're really trying to make this a running gag, as it's been a thing since the first season, yet it's not really a joke. Just having a character wink towards the camera followed by patent pending has the substance of a Big Bang Theory episode. It's sort of comparable to that thing a lot of kids movies do where they'll reference something popular as a replacement for writing talent.
Don't a lady check her Twitter?
As in, you're literally saying a thing and hoping it makes someone laugh. That's not humor. There's a reason why I'm stopping myself to complain in detail about this dumb joke in a kids movie, because the overall film is rather annoyingly smug with how confident it is. Every joke in this film has to be some, like, massive smugly delivered zinger in the same vein as a modern Gearbox title. It's not the usual lazy kids writing, although that is still present in vomit-inducing amounts. It will even sometimes have jokes that can work with just a tiny bit of subtlety despite the inherent immaturity, but will then get ahead of themselves and just shout the joke in your face anyway.
Duking.
Right in front of us?
You know we have our own bathrooms now.
You're just shouting the joke at people. Fucking bazinga. Again, movie for kids, but kids deserve better. My 4-year-old sister didn't laugh at this, not even at the slapstick. It's just bare bones. Anyway, Lincoln finishes indoctrinating the youngest in the family, and they both put the plan into action. Very funny slapstick happens. Lily pulls a burrito out of her shitty diaper and Lincoln starts eating it, and I feel watching the scene has probably put me on a watch list of some kind. Also, all of the Loud sisters have their own activities for the day, which is something that has been dealt with before in the show without an issue. But then suddenly Lynn and Rita start having a visible spurg in front of their kids, reminding me that they once threw their son out of the house for believing he was bad luck, and subsequently reminding me that these are two of the worst parents I've ever seen animated. Jesus Christ, they're insufferably incompetent. You wish they'd get a grip most of the time. Calling Lynn a wet blanket is too generous of a term, because as far as I'm concerned, the blanket is sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic. Lincoln, being the only character in the room with an IQ above room temperature, proceeds to effectively organize all of her sister's activities. The kid is 12, which is very impressive, and I'm mentioning this for a reason. We'll get back to it. We have a montage of the Louds doing their activities. Luna's girlfriend shows up for about 2 seconds because Nick wanted to make sure you understand that gay people don't just get sold away to the Shadow Realm once they've outlived their usefulness, and all of the girls receive awards up the ass for being slightly above average in all of their tasks, except for Luann, who has probably bought out the theatre for this praise given how shit she is at this, and all's well that ends well. So far you could say this movie isn't so bad, but this scene specifically is where shit royally hits hits the fan. The Louds are out celebrating and suddenly they're just hounded by people at the restaurant who want to take photos of them because in this movie the Loud sisters are celebrities now.
What the pussy?
Why? That was never a thing. Why is Luann a celebrity for telling knock-knock jokes? This feels like a very shoehorned idea just to set up Lincoln's insecurity and feeling of inadequacy compared to his sisters because, well, of course, his sisters are famous somehow. That was never a thing. That is a plot point that has been pulled out of a hat. You can say they've just suddenly become famous after their gigs from a minute ago, but that makes it even more embarrassing because they've done all these things before and have succeeded and have gotten practically no amount of praise close to this collective circle jerk. This film is also apparently canon in whatever kind of continuity this Nickelodeon show has, by the way. Sam is here, which makes something like this a surprise. But it's not a very good one because you've taken an unexpected shit on my plate, yes, but I ordered a salad. Jesus, there are billboards and posters of them. Who did you buy off, you talentless? Lincoln then gets completely thrown out of the photo and his parents couldn't give a toss, so at least that's consistent. It was at this point that I thought Lincoln was going to have an actual heartwarming character moment and I waited in anticipation. And then as I was watching, I noticed that my ears had begun to bleed a little bit, which I found to be a tad odd. As it turns out, I had not mentally registered or taken in the fact that he had started fucking singing. With Lil Wayne levels of autotune. It is audible vomit. It sounds like it's coming out of a synthesizer's sphincter. By the way, this movie is a musical. Yes, why not? Oh, cartoonji, I hear you saying. Yes, I can hear you, just roll with it. It's only 4 songs. This movie is an hour and 10 minutes long and has 4 songs scattered every 20 minutes. Okay, musical is too broad a term, but it's close enough, and I have to ask, why? The songs aren't good, none of them are. They are an assault on your eyes and ears and will not rest until you have registered the plot progression that is supposed to be happening through them. They play an active role in somehow making this movie worse. This movie did not need to have songs. You have been working on this film since 2017. You have had more than enough time to figure out better ways of pushing the plot forward than having Lincoln Loud sing about it. Disney can get away with this because in most of their films, well, most of the old ones anyway,
got the best intention.
the songs themselves flow with the plot, they don't feel awkwardly placed. Which I know sounds a bit vague, but it becomes obvious when you watch the film yourself. You are making me praise the goddamn mouse, please stop! And as you can probably guess, with Lincoln feeling inadequate, and with the previously gathered knowledge that the Louds are royalty, you can see exactly where this film is going from this point forward. He's going to do something logistically questionable now that he has what he wanted, and he'll eventually realize that he's had what he's always wanted all along through the power of family and love. Yada yada yada, fuck you movie. It amazes me that everyone admires Lincoln for his frankly godlike organizational skills, which takes a surprising amount of intelligence, yet no one has ever actually shown direct appreciation for this except for the end of the movie where he vents his insecurities directly. He gets shoved out of a group photo and his parents start bragging about how totally epic their daughters are to complete strangers. Like, Jesus Christ, you loathsome cunts. How do you not see anything wrong with your son's current mental state when he out of the blue tries to convince you to remain in Scotland so he can be the freaking Duke later in the story? Oh right, this movie has a story, let's get back to that. So Lincoln starts venting to token black friend number 7, Clyde McBride, and compliments his cooking, with Clyde saying in response that his skills in baking run in the family and that his ancestral grandmothers were good bakers, which inadvertently kicks off the actual plot. Don't ask, just fucking roll with it, because Lincoln wants to find out what his ancestors were. Funny slapstick DNA test. Turns out they were Scottish, and they want to go on a vacation there. No regard for school or potentially important events in the coming weeks, but alright, I'll suspend my disbelief there. I won't, however, suspend my disbelief at Lola spending upwards of $10,000 on whitening her teeth because Jesus fucking Christ, hiding in the cargo area of and jumping out of a fucking plane into France to get a hot air balloon and then coincidentally get a submarine to willingly take them to Scotland. An entertaining montage sequence, but if skydiving was your only option, then skydive out of a plane that is heading to bloody Scotland. Why did you go to Paris? Nothing good ever happens in cucking Paris. This film is proof that nothing good ever happens in Paris. The Louds arrive in England, but awesome, and Laurie called her irrelevant boyfriend only for the phone signal to cut out, which messes with what she's actually trying to say. Wow, I have never heard this joke before, and now there's a subplot involving this horny troglodyte with attachment issues trying to get to Scotland because what this movie really needed was a scattershot attempt at a funny subplot that's just clunkily thrown into the middle of a few scenes. Woohoo.
Have a nice day, Scott! Hi, Scott!
Why are you calling everyone Scott?
We're in Scotland.
Fuck off, you spooky bitch!
The Louds arrive in Scotland and everyone starts audibly cooming about them being there. Okay, a few things first here.
About 400 years ago, our village rose to fame.
I must shed a tear for David Tennant. And second of all, wow, the main characters of a bland comedy show find out they are descendants of royalty or some other famous or powerful thing. I can only wonder where this plot may go. You've, been working on this for a while, I think. You had plenty of time to redraft this, just saying. Oh, and yeah, we get another song with this one, specifically empowering me to blow my fucking brains out. Because Tennant cannot sing to save his life, no matter how many millions of dollars they sink into autotune. And the Louds enter the old family castle, which is currently owned by evil Celtic woman, who is angry about the Louds moving in, but feigns gratitude for the rightful heirs, but still visibly wants them to be kicked out. Okay, I see where this is going. Maybe this tired trope of a character could actually be flipped on its head through actually clever subversion. No, not that kind. And instead, it's David Tennant that's the bad guy and she actually gets a character arc. Bringing myself back down to reality for a sec, everyone is thrilled to stay in the home of their important ancestors, especially Lincoln as he learns the most important sibling out of his ancestors was the Duke. And from this point forward, Lincoln's character arc goes on a thrilling adventure into the pits of fucking Tartarus.
The boy in the painting was the Duke.
Aye.
The boy in the painting with the white hair was the Duke.
Aye.
The boy in the painting with the white hair that had 10.
Hey, you remember the episodes where Lincoln acts like a complete and utter twat that no one likes? Yeah, me neither. I had managed to successfully remove them from my brain until I watched this movie. That's essentially what they do with Lincoln here, and yes, while he realizes what he does is wrong at the end of the film and ultimately ends up redeeming himself, it's still annoying watching the movie take the absolute worst possible route they could have gone with Lincoln's insecurity, by having him be consumed by that jealousy and acting like a smug, entitled brat for the rest of the film, as he goes on his conquest to become the ultimate foreign invader of Scotland. Trust me, they don't like those. I live next to them.
And the one that can suck my dick!
Also, there's a dragon here, because Scotland, just like when they were 10 years late to the Canada jokes, without getting political obviously, the writers for this film don't just scrape the bottom of the barrel for Scotland jokes, they've become the bottom of the barrel for Scotland jokes, and I'm gonna scrape it. Violently. David Tennant, because fuck if I care what his actual name is, tells Lincoln that to become the Duke he has to make life better for the people of Scotland. Ah, yes, that's totally how it works. Scots will absolutely accept an American if he helps out here. They love that. Don't you agree, David?
We fucking don't.
Lincoln then translates this as forcing his culture on foreigners and replacing their books with his own. Oh boy, this joke is going to get me in trouble. Now, before we progress through the plot of this piece of shit, it's about time we bring up the Loudhouse inflation art the size of an elephant in the room. The animation! It's not good. Not acting like the original show was a masterpiece of animation or anything, but if you watch an episode of the show and then compare it to the multiple scenes in this movie, something is clearly wrong here. One thing I'll continue to praise about the show is that it does the best it can with its character designs and overall comic book aesthetic. It doesn't do anything too crazy, but it looks fluid and the tweening feels natural. The Loudhouse movie, on the other hand, tries to take a more cinematic approach, which isn't a bad thing inherently, but what the ass is this? It's like they tried to hand draw the animation and halfway through just tweened it up the wazoo. This doesn't feel natural. Lincoln feels strangely off model, like he's being rigged but at the same time not. I'm not an animator obviously, but for a film that was intended to be a theatrical release, this is nowhere near acceptable. The character movements are fluid in some scenes, but the second they try being more ambitious they get very choppy. I don't know if it has something to do with interpolation or what, but it's like Adobe Animate was having a fucking stroke while rendering half the scenes. God forbid they tried to put these characters that were not designed with a 3D space in mind in a 3D space. That's a tasty frame rate right there. I'm not saying they didn't try, they clearly did, but the walrus who fell ass over tit trying to prove they could walk on their hind flippers still fell ass over tit in the process. Also, what are you doing in my house? It certainly doesn't help that the key moment where I noticed this was a problem occurred at the same time Lincoln began singing again. This song is somehow worse than the previous two, not because of the beautiful vocals, but because of the actual music. Try and focus on this MIDI produced sewage.
I used to feel like a nobody, cause my sister's always
Oh right, I can't do that. It sounds like such an artificial song, like a Kids Bop cover of Gangnam Style. This isn't even the worst song in the movie. Oh god, don't force Tennant to sing.
You help out other people, don't just do it to be in the spotlight.
I've become a little introspective while I've been writing this, and I think I know how to best enjoy the songs in this movie. You see, if you set yourself on fire...
I burst into dance? For a tourist?
Tourists.
Lincoln has another moment of being a selfish noodle and tries to convince his parents to stay in Scotland under the guise of it being for his own benefit.
patent pending.
Shut up. I don't really care that Lincoln realizes this is wrong at the end of the film because it still doesn't excuse what is really poor writing for someone we're supposed to sympathize with. Lincoln feeling inadequate in comparison to others is something a lot of people can relate to, and it's fine to have him do something morally questionable and then realize it's wrong at the end, but to have him be this unlikable is not helping his case. Again, silly movie for kids, but I can think of plenty of silly movies for kids that can at least write a decent character arc that doesn't make you hate the main character, like the reasonable parents they are sometimes. Lynn and Rita reject Lincoln's idea of moving to Scotland.
Go back home to our house with one bathroom.
We're moving to Scotland.
I hate you. By the way, everyone in the room calls Lincoln out for trying to be the Duke, and Lincoln reiterates that moving to Scotland would be beneficial for everyone, before then bringing up the bathroom comment. If you want to manipulate someone, you should first make an unreasonable request, wait for the person to reject you, and then follow it up by a more reasonable request. Oh, by the way, I got sidetracked with the rant on the animation from a minute ago, but Lucy manages to summon a ghost of her ancestor, a character that is introduced and then disappears for the rest of the film until they're needed for plot convenience. And I mean, like, very heavy plot convenience. Well, I mean heavy for this film anyway, it's not Metal Gear Solid 2. She is literally a plot device, and they didn't really consider any methods of disguising that. She's just brought back into a scene at the end of the film, and it's really awkward. Anyway, so Lincoln finally invades Scotland, and we get the schizophrenic recreation of the show's intro where the animation falls flat at trying to be ambitious again, and the editing was so breakneck you'd think it was handled by a chimp with Parkinson's. Then we get a joke that actually made me chuckle as evil Celtic woman walks for about 30 seconds and then screams that she hates the louds and breaks a vocal cord in the process. There's nothing particularly great about it, I just thought I'd mention that I found it funny, which is not exactly the highest of praise if you've seen my content, Jesus Christ. Celtic Lucy is summoned into existence again to reveal that the original Louds did try and come back to Scotland but were driven away by their dragon, as he suddenly deemed the Duke to be unworthy. Also, Dragon Boy has been growing throughout the film, so guess what's going to happen later? It's practically impossible. They had 4 years to write this, by the way. Apparently, the old caretaker of the castle and the relative of evil Celtic woman kept a journal and was apparently able to find and be in possession of a gem that could control the Duke's dragon. How? Why? Don't know. Why does this gem exist in the first place since it makes the dragon perpetually pissed off? Don't know. What did old Aggie have against the Louds? Don't know. At least their great-grandchild has a fucking motive. Did Aggie discover the gem herself? Were the old Louds aware of its existence because they clearly don't seem to consider it a possibility? I just don't know. I don't expect much from kids films, honestly. I'm not upset at any of this. There's just very minimal effort being put into this, and I feel sorry for watching it with my sister. I don't really mind if something for kids is good or bad, I just want them to care mainly. Plot consistency was not something I was expecting, to be honest, but the film is just agonizingly boring, which is a very subjective take, but it doesn't do anything of note. It's like asking for a semi-decent meal and being served fucking milk toast that's been set on fire. The fire being this next song. No, not the song, that's not what the song is shit! It's the worst one so far. Like the others I have been able to tolerate without cheese grating my ears off, but this song, my god.
It's what you started. I'm about to finish. The rhythm
Complete and utter lemming shite. Basically, her plan is to make Lincoln's sisters famous in Scotland like they were back home, which will make Lincoln jealous so he'll ride around town on Dragon Boy, only for the women of Celts to control it and get him in trouble, which will then force him to leave. Like that's ever gonna work. Lincoln is already famous just from being the Duke, that's absolutely no way. Are you baiting me? Firstly, can I just talk about how little of an impact Lincoln's sisters actually have on this horror film? Because it's practically next to none. This is a movie that's exclusively about Lincoln, but along the way, it's like they forgot that the sisters were also main characters. Their main narrative purpose in the film is to show up and be a twat for 5 seconds, which has the potential to be funny, but there's only so many times the writers can use underage girls to tickle their diaper fetish before you want to take an entire bottle of cyanide pills. There's a part of me that thinks they know exactly what they're doing when it comes to the fetish scenes in this film, by the way, because there's no other explanation for it at this point. Who let Dan Schneider on the writing team? Like at the start of the movie, they have Lenny get into a relationship with this random guy, which first of all is not nationally accurate, and second of all, it goes nowhere. He's just her boyfriend now and appears at times. It's like they had ideas for what to do with the sisters, but they were kept on some kind of leash in the unlikely event that one of them took a fucking risk. There must have been a moment of crisis in Brian Robbins' office at the time. Oh shit, someone almost did something different, Brian exclaimed before aiming his rifle at the man's family. What the hell am I talking about? Oh yeah, I get that writing like 10 other characters besides the protag is is a difficult job, no doubt, but don't pretend like the sisters aren't important to the heart and soul of the show. They should be involved more of the plot so that I don't get the urge to club a baby seal when Lynn gets a second of screen time to herself, because just having them in the film doing nothing for the majority of their scenes just means they could have been cut out to give the main plot more time to breathe, because they waste so much space in this rather miserable plot that they could resettle a quarter of the refugees from Afghanistan there. Okay, rant over. Second of all, Lincoln has literally everything he could ever want right now, including fame, so I don't see why he's so ready to make his sisters feel completely inadequate, you petty cunt. Your parents were lying, you were absolutely adopted. So because characters are hard to write, Lincoln hypocritically tries to steal the spotlight from his sisters who have been performing for like a few minutes tops. The animators decided to take a break from trying, and every prediction you could have had for the plot happens as Celtic woman controls the dragon who destroys several parts of town. Am I rushing through this? No, there's like 20 minutes of the film left. I'm not kidding. Pacing be damned. Luckily, the damage is relatively minimal, so despite it looking really fucking stupid on Lincoln's part, it can be easily fixed with no loss to the town.
We lost everything!
You lost a chip shop! Lincoln starts sulking over how much of a twat he is, and his sisters come to tell him that he isn't a twat and say they'll fix the town together. But Lincoln gives up the crown anyway to bask in his twattiness. The Louds are forced out of Scotland, and Celtic woman finally takes the crown for herself, and the crowd cheers for her getting rid of the foreigners. This is actually accurate. But David Tennant is quick to call her out since it was never agreed that she'd have the crown, and some people begin to question her. It was at this point that the writers realized they only have about 10 minutes of movie left, so try to put yourself in this woman's shoes and guess what she does next. I'll give you some time. Time's up. Obviously, the intelligent decision is to start destroying the town that you wanted control of. I see no flaws in this logic. I'm 6 pages into the script without many gag edits. Oh, I know.
Will they stand for it? Imposter!
Anyway, Scottish Lucy pops into existence again to tell the lads the truth, and they go to stop the Celtic bitch. Then by combining all of their skills being in quotation marks because Luann is present in this scene, they attempt to stop her. The animators take another break from trying, and then we have the climax of the film with a scene that actually shocked me.
Dragon, obliterate this nigger!
Oh, I wish. What happens instead is that Lily grabs the jewel, Dragon's back under control, and Celtic person is then left on an island to die, and Lincoln finally ties up its clusterfuck of a character arc by making David Tennant the Duke.
But the power vested in me
Lad, no.
by the Royal Loud family,
No, Lincoln, I can't.
I dub thee.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Cartoonshi's first ever Doctor Who reference. It will never happen again. Lincoln apologizes and is given comfort by his family, conflict resolved, about fucking time. Also, all of the previous Louds come back despite not being summoned, but at this point I don't care. They repair the town and the Louds leave the Royal Woods, being the final nail in the coffin that proves the Loud House's quality control is an absolute clusterfuck. Well, this movie sucked. Again, kids movie, right? I can't fault it on some things, but I had a lot of people asking me to make this video, so I thought I might as well. Also, partly because I think this film precisely nails why doing the bare minimum for kids entertainment should not be the norm. Not just to satisfy losers like myself, but also because kids simply deserve better films than this. Again, I watched this with my sister and she was completely bored stiff. I nearly fell asleep. It wouldn't matter if the movie was devoid of humor because the plot itself is just agonizingly simple. When you watch a Nickelodeon movie that's based on a TV show they have, not those ones, but you usually think of something like the SpongeBob movie, don't you? That's a movie that kids and adults alike can enjoy because there was actual effort placed into the writing to make it stand out from other animated films with a similar premise, and had way more variety in the joke department than one-liners and that. Whether you like that film or not, the level of effort cannot be ignored when in comparison to the Loud House movie. You don't need to do something new with everything ever, just don't make something bland or predictable. You don't have to be a particularly enlightened individual to see where this movie's plot is going after the first 15 minutes. And sorry if it seemed like this video was being made without any enjoyment, I didn't really want to review the film, but you guys wanted it, and hey, I thought I might as well do a request for a change. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was at least a nice change of pace for me to rip into something for reasons that aren't too complicated, like the writers being completely fucking inept, as opposed to discussing the moral implications of genocide and shows about archaeology. So yeah, thanks for watching. Fuck off.
Every night I see a shooting star and wonder if it's mine.